Now that we have our superelevation sections and our superelevation lanes defined, we're ready to do our calculations. In this example, you can see that I have two lanes on either side of my center line that I'm ready to compute. I have a couple of different options. First of all, I can use either an SEP file or an SRL file and have them automatically computed based on the rules and standards built into those files. The other option is I can use a spreadsheet, Excel spreadsheet, if I've got my calculations done outside, and I can import that CSV file, and it will basically bring in all of my stations and cross-slope transitions. Both of them are accessed from our superelevation tools. And since it's usually an either-or situation, you can see that we have Calculate Super as the top tool, and that's the one that will use the SCP SRL. And the bottom one is the Import Superelevation, which is the one that would bring in a CSV file. So let's take a look at calculating. The first thing that we need to notice is what's on the dialog, and it really varies depending on what you have in your SCP or SRL file. Also, this is one that you may want to customize. So in this case, I'm looking at the SCP file that I'm using, and then all the rest of these options here are based on what's in that file. Well, there may be some of these that you're not using, and you may want to turn off. For example, the transition ID. Generally, you're going to use either linear all the time or perhaps parabolic all the time, but you really don't switch back and forth unless you are working for multiple customers. And so maybe that's one that your users never need to see because you're always using, in this case, a linear transition. Or perhaps you don't use the AASHTO adjustment factor, in which case you don't care about the number of lanes, and so maybe you want to turn that off. So there are several of these options that you can turn off and on, and it's very simple. You just click on the icon over on the far right hand side, and for example, now you can say you want to display it and prompt, or say display, and then it will put the information back into the tool. So if I do that, you can see now all of a sudden that facility divided that was hidden before is now visible again. So let's go ahead. We have our SEP file selected, and it wants to know what sections we want to do, and of course we want to do all of them. So I'm just going to drag across the screen, and it's going to highlight everything, which is fine. I'm going to reset to complete. In fact, you'll notice that it even highlights my corridors and my superelevation lanes. It sorts it out by itself. So as long as you have all of your sections highlighted, it doesn't matter if you have extraneous stuff there as well. So I'm going to reset to complete because I've got all my sections. And it's going to want to name a file, and I've already got that defined. So if not, I could go ahead and I could do an Alt down and go out and select that file. And now I'm just going to work my way through the prompts. We're using high speed and a 1 to 200 slope factor, 65 miles an hour. And if I want something different, I could just, up and down arrow through these. And I'm going to have the editor closed because we're going to look at that in a different video. And once I've done that, now it goes out and it does the computations. And I can tell because it has changed from a green and yellow lanes to rainbow lanes. I'm going to reset to close out of the tool, and let's go in a little closer. You can see that it's colored, and the coloring is based on the cross slope, and we have it from some very steep is in the deep blue, and then it goes through and ends up with orange and red at the other end of the spectrum. The colors are hard-coded. You don't have an optional if you're not seeing the colors, and you have your settings turned on for it. Make sure you have your view attribute fill turned on as well.